Hey everybody, welcome to the Implying podcast episode 1. I'm Zach, you know who I am. With me is Matt.
Hello, I'm Matthew, I'm the British one.
You wanted to make a podcast, I guess for the group to roast or care about, who cares? We're just doing it, we're bored.
And also music discussion just as a good way to keep the discussion flowing back and forth, keep it fresh and nice and get more actively involved. So it's not just comment sections.
100%. So today we wanted to just really dive into what everybody likes talking about in the group most of the time, and we found that really it'll be a lot of mucore that even though we're basically quote unquote not mu, it's still very influenced as if it was a wholesome version of 4chan mu. And we were talking about Radiohead, 100 Gex, Death Grips, Joy Division, Bowie, anything we can get our claws on, Jack.
Anything that's in sort of the mucore essentials that we hear frequently mentioned here.
Exactly. All right. So first off, the big one I think is Radiohead. Everybody really seems to like Radiohead for some reason. What do you think, Matt? I'm gonna let you go first.
Okay, I think very much like Radiohead. I think they've done tons of great stuff, and I think they definitely have quite a wide appeal because they can appeal to people who are say Oasis, Blur, Britpop fans, because that's where some of their early work leads to. But it also has a clear link to American 90s alternative like Nirvana and all that. When you get into the debut stuff and some of the stuff on OK Computer, yet they also can appeal to the weirder, driftier indie crowd, like people who like Grizzly Bear and what's his name, Deer Hunter or something like that.
I think they were they all met in a school, in, I forget where, but it's in England somewhere, Oxfordshire.
Because a lot of bands sort of meet at university, in the Bohemian Rhapsody, Queen met at university, and Pink Floyd met at university. Definitely seems to be the main point where bands come together.
Yeah, the York brothers, etc. They were honestly really good, but for me, I kind of, I'll out myself a little. I kind of just listening to mainstream. I do like delving into stuff, but it's always do I like it? If I don't, I'm not gonna try to dive into it, try to make myself like it. Nah.
I get what you mean, because that's not worth it. Because the whole point of music is entertainment, something escapism for people, and you have to enjoy it. And I think if you're trying to force it, then it's never really going to be.
Yeah, I kind of find that everybody. So all my perspective is I kind of think is the lowest common denominator's perspective, and it'll be yeah, I know Radiohead, Creep, right? And it's I heard Creep, there was always that specter of I heard in the UK they stopped it from being played on radio after a while because people were killing themselves too much, and that's really crazy, bro.
What? Oh, never heard of that.
100%. I've read it somewhere about Creep.
Of all songs, I'm surprised Creep is the one.
Basically, it was funny because Creep is when they got their attention, the attention of the press, I guess, and they're all they're not great. And yeah, so I just looked it up. It was blacklisted by BBC Radio 1 because it was deemed too depressing. That actually happened. And it's
that's kind of surprising, seeing early 90s you were having stuff like Heart-Shaped Box and the entire Alice in Chains stuff going around. So I'm surprised that Radiohead's one, which was
a bit of an incel anthem, not gonna lie. It's oh my god, I can't get this girl, she didn't even notice me. No, it's come on, bro, we've all been through this.
Not how Creep was sort of seen as a what do we call it? Some saw it as almost a parody of grunge because of how typically misery sort of vibe it had. And in fact, that's probably why Tom hates it so much and abandoned it. Though I still think it's a decent track. It just captures a good sense of 90s-ness to it, which means it always has that sort of 90s.
What about the BBC One band? Obviously in England, that's a fucking supposed to be a death sentence, right? But listen, you know the Streisand effect, right? Where Barbra Streisand tried to take down a picture and then everybody posted it more because he was trying to take it down, etc. People were damn, this song is so depressing that they took it off the radio. I really need to hear it now. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what helped make it a hit and that sort of thing.
Very cool that they got through with that.
Because a version I always think of is sort of the Frankie Goes to Hollywood song, Relax, where in 1985 at first it was just doing moderately well, like they were just sort of like an indie new wave act. But then I think one of the Radio 1 DJs called it smut, and then the BBC banned it, and then demand for the single shot through the roof and ended up selling 1 billion copies.
Yeah, and it's these little like sociological tricks that you can really like. I think artists really can make or break their rise to greatness. You know what I'm saying? Like I really like to look at artists rise to greatness. That's my thing. Like when you were nothing, what made you something? That's what I care about. Honestly, I'm into sociology, so that's my thing, right?
Like, how did the artists like catch people's attention, and then how do they build it up and explode?
But not in a hater way. Like, I said that in a weird way, but like definitely meant it in like no, it's definitely very interesting why you, like, you know, there's so many more artists in respective genres of your caliber, if not more. So what makes you so great? And people will always brush it off, be like, you know, industry plant, so on and so forth, but it's really like not the case most of the time. The industry plant thing works most of the time, but you can always notice who it is, and that's not part of mucore. Honestly, mucore is not about being an industry plant. It's more about, I think, things like this song, bro. It made everybody kill themselves, so BBC Radio took it out, and because of that, yeah, I really want to kill myself, so I want to hear it, man. You know what I mean? And then, you know, I honestly think sad songs help as opposed to make it worse. Just saying, but you know, maybe that's just my subjective point of view about that.
I think that's sort of generally the idea that sort of like forced happiness can be worse than just accepting bits of sadness to stop it growing too much.
100%. And I also think like
which was basically the message of the film Inside Out.
Exactly, that's what I was about to say. And mainly like with Radiohead, they got like critical acclaim constantly because I think like they were the only guys doing like we saw with the Benz, right? Benz was decent album, honestly, and it was like Tom York didn't really like the MTV crowd and stuff, so like he was just doing his own like thing, and I think that like in his era he was kind of like the trailblazer hipster, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I do very much sort of get that because he always said like he never wanted to truly be a mega part of anything. Like he always, and like he was just wanting to do his own thing. Like he was a rock artist in the 90s. Yeah, he always said he wasn't a fan of Britpop, and yet, you know, even though they were this massive rock band, they were huge IDM fans.
100%.
Like you hear the Bends, and then you hear that his favourite artists at the time were Bjork, Aphex Twin, and DJ Shadow. So it's like, how does this match up?
Exactly, and he's really like, I don't know if it's a Joaquin Phoenix type move where he tries to mess with people or like it's actually like that. But with OK Computer, I think was the next album. They kind of had like tours, like I think for what's her face, Alanis Morissette, and they were like, I think he can pretend to be like a hipster guy as much as he wants, but like, you know, he does think that like, yeah, but I'm better than this person. I'm better than them. I'm good. You know what I mean? He doesn't think he's trash. You know what I mean? He definitely does it. Kind of like an Oasis level, but not really at their level. Like they take it to an obnoxious point, man. But
yeah, he just sort of does it like the slightly smug hipster way. So like the sort where like he doesn't really like pop artists in the slightest.
The OK Computer singles, there was Karma Police. I remember that one very well. Paranoid Android. Those are just exploded. Those by themselves like.
And was like especially impressive because of how unconventional OK Computer was as a hugely commercially successful album. Like Paranoid Android was the biggest single off it, and it's like 4, 5, 6 minutes without like a major chorus and this really weird structure, yet it somehow became a hit single despite breaking all the core rules of a hit single.
There was also the movie, I think, the video. There was like a tour video. It's called
Meeting People is Easy or something like that.
They're pretty much like disillusioned with like the whole music industry, and like they're burned out with the OK Computer stuff. So I do think that they got to like a place where like that kind of stuff was maybe hard to play constantly. Like it was so like I don't know, I won't say difficult, but like I guess it took a lot out of them from watching the movie anyway.
Like you always hear how touring takes a ton out of artists, just a huge strain of like 2 shows a day,
Exactly.
4 nights a week for like multiple months and constant traveling. Like you see how that would easily wear someone down.
100%. And they weren't that level of touring before, so they were just openers before.
And so I sort of feel that with all that, you know, like they're suddenly at the peak of their success. That's where they decided to try and like, you know, avoid going like the pop star, rock star route, and instead take things, you know, their own way, so they don't just become part of the music industry a cog in the industry, a cog in the wheel. Because that's where you get Kid A come in, which was like their big major anti-commercial breakthrough, where they suddenly completely changed to a highly like uncommercial genre with IDM, and didn't release any singles from it. So like fully breaking the rules that artists in the industry are meant to go
And
by.
still, it hit #1 so many countries that like it didn't matter.
I know, like I think in the book, like 1001 Albums, they use a quote from someone who said it's sort of like it was the weirdest album to sell 1 million copies, which is probably right.
Apparently, I just read right now, it was leaked on Napster a few months.
Yeah, that was something they had a problem with throughout tons of their albums.
People were losing their goddamn minds, so it's like it makes sense. I mean, most mute people pirate their music, me included, so it makes sense. Like you get an early release, you're like, oh my god. Then they like just went off with Hail to the Thief, In Rainbows. Like I feel like all of that is
just going back to Kid A briefly.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because I think one like core topic a lot of people talk about with Radiohead is, what do you think is their best one? What's your favourite? And I'm very much on the Kid A team, because I think Kid A is easily their greatest album, because of all the innovation I just mentioned, but also because for me it's like their most varied, because I really like the Bend and OK Computer, but all the tracks sound very similar to each other. Like they start to blend into one another if you try to listen to them as full albums.
Exactly. You're right.
And I feel like Kid A was the one where, because they talk about it as like, you know, their IDM album, but they still had a good amount of variance on it, because you had the very distinctly IDM tracks, like Everything in Its Right Place and all that. But you then have like the fully guitar-based tracks, or the more distinctly rocky guitar ones, like the National Anthem and In Limbo. So for me, it's easily like their best album because of that, all like the innovation, but still keeping it like it's the one that works best as a listening experience. You can listen to it all the way through because it's so varied and, as I said, constantly keeping your interest.
Agreed. I actually do agree with you, and for me, it was like they were kind of honestly too much to like listen to for a while, and then Kid A, you could digest it easier, and for me, that's always a plus.
Yeah, because like how they'd sort of like develop the reputation as sort of like almost being more Morrissey-like, as in being self-indulgently miserable. You do occasionally get that sort of vibe on OK Computer, like, and you do occasionally think, oh, we live in a society once Fitter Happier comes on. But there are some moments. There is like society moments on Kid A, but I think they really work on Kid A because the songwriting is a lot better. Like I think the track Idiotech is amazing because like it's easily their most relevant track lyrically, and it's still very much relevant 20 years on because it's sort of about like internet overload. You know what I mean?
100%.
So sort of like where you're constantly getting constant news, constant messages.
Plus the logo was amazing too. The little bear. Everybody was putting stickers everywhere.
Like the bear.
It was like on skateboards.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because it doesn't really like appear on the album. I'm looking at the art now, and like the front cover just has the same Radiohead logo they had from like the first few albums, minus like the white plus sign at the side. But yeah, funny how like their main logo doesn't really appear on the cover of any of the albums.
Still, it's kind of like in secret kind of thing. People that know it see it. People that don't know it just think it's random like graffiti stickers.
So overall thoughts on Radiohead then?
Radiohead, honestly, great like story arc. You know what I mean? If you're looking at it in a trope kind of situation, where they started with they got censored, not for like political reasons or anything, but for like being so sad that the BBC banned them from the radio, which is like supposed to be again a death
I mean, that's impressive. Like when even the likes of Joy Division and the Smiths get away with that, yet you're the one that causes it still. That is impressive.
That was like my favorite part of Radiohead. And then Kid A being for sure, I think we both agree, the apex album, the peak album, peak Radiohead, probably Kid A, because they kind of like removed the shackles of their depressive, niche that they were given.
Well, it's still a hugely depressive album, but it doesn't feel like it's reliant on that. It's also the musicianship and the textures and, as I said, the experimentation.
Completely changed.
And yeah, I agree. I think they're definitely one of the best bands, like story-wise, because they've just got such a clear arc to them with so many notable points, like how they were initially in the one-hit wonder phase until they managed to break out of it, how they had the massive genre change, and how they've constantly remained unconventional, like with later on when they did the unconventional In Rainbows release, where it was like a pay for it what you want and digital as well, so sort of like a precursor to how streaming albums would work. But yeah, I think Kid A is easily their best. I think they had mega strong tracks on the earlier albums, but in terms of like as in a full album listening experience, they didn't truly get to that on until Kid A. They were sort of there with OK Computer, but Kid A was the big one, and they've done good stuff after, but they've never made anything that truly works as well as a whole album.
I also think that Kid A not having singles let them do that instead of like going with like the OK Computer route, which was like 3-4 crazy songs and then the rest kind of just being like slow to start, slow, like forgettable, you know what I'm saying? And Kid A is honestly really just
there are some highlights from OK Computer, because when most people talk their favourite tracks outside of the singles, they often say stuff like Lucky or Let Down or Exit, Music for a Film, but because they're so similar to the singles, I always preferred the stuff that went a bit weirder, or at least a lot texturally different. Like I love Subterranean Homesick Alien, because how sort of like trippy and psychedelic that sounds, and then I really like The Tourist, because of how sort of like dramatic it is, but not quite in the same way as Exit Music.
100%. I barely listen to the OK Computer outside the singles though, not gonna lie, because I listened through the album, but like replayed the singles. To me, they were just the replayable ones, for me, it's like
very much get what you mean. A lot of it is a bit too similar to the extent where you have very clear notable tracks.
Exactly.
Although for Radiohead fans, that never seems to be the way, because whenever you see like footage of Radiohead concerts, they're always sort of like singing and cheering for the OK Computer album tracks almost as much as they are the singles. And so what would you say are sort of like the highlights and downlights from there? So just quickly, some favourites and least favourites from after Kid A.
I guess In Rainbows for sure. Like the whole album was like pretty decent, because they went back to singles again, which I don't mind. There was one called House of Cards, decent video I remember, and then like that from there, like again, I was more hip hop and so on, but like so for me it was always their singles that like caught my attention outside of their album releases, which I would give one or two listens. House of Cards mainly, I think, from the title and the video.
And also, like, they're one of the greatest bands music video-wise
Yes.
as well. Like, I think the 90s was the high point for music videos, because where the way to make a music video good was to make it really weird, but in a technically cool way. And Radiohead naturally took to that very conceptual ones. Like, I love the one for Just, where it's this, throughout the whole video, it's just this guy lying on the ground, and people constantly ask him, "Oh, why are you on the ground?" He's like, "Oh, I can't tell you." He's like, "Come on, tell us." And then he whispers it to them, and then suddenly everyone else starts lying on the ground.
Oh man.
And when you get sort of like the typical MTV liquid television style animation videos, like with the one for Paranoid Android, which was by a Swedish animator who'd worked on like the on Cartoon Sushi, which is sort of like the MTV show for young animators to get their shorts, however weird, like onto the air or get noticed. And MTV actually had a few shows for that, like one called Liquid Television, which produced Eon Flux and Beavis and Butthead.
Right. Okay. not familiar with the MTV thing. I do know Beavis and Butthead though.
And yeah, they just generally consistently made great videos. Like I love the supermarket look of Fake Plastic Trees video, the whole conceptual thing in the Karma Police one, where it's just like the view from the car. And
yeah, come to think of it, their singles all had like banger videos too.
They were especially good with animation. Like I think they used stop motion a few times in their later years. Like for me, most notably in the video for There, one of the singles from Hail to the Thief, which was like this really creepy woodland stop motion, like a 70s British animation show, like the Wombles or Bagpuss, where it did that style in sort of an eerie way, and it then did the exact same thing for Burn the Witch as well.
Damn, I actually didn't even remember about Hail to the Thief. I missed that album completely.
It's a decent house. It's the one where they went back to the rock sound after the experimentation on Kid A and Amnesiac, where they went more rock based. It's not a massively memorable album, but it's one that you can easily listen to. It's got a nice cool sound to it, but it's just sort of comes across as like OK Computer light,
right.
Or not light, but just like a repeat of that sort of thing.
Interesting that they went that direction. Kind of like, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We're done exploring.
You know, it's sort of done the experimentation, and then just a brief return to the norm, and then back to the experimentation, because they went back to, because in Rainbows, like it's quite similar to Amnesiac, where it sounds quite improvisational, but whereas Amnesiac was very like bare and minimalistic, within Rainbows they made it very texturally lush and also quite bright, which I think is probably why a lot of people favour it as a Radiohead album, because it's sort of more upbeat. It's one where they sort of stepped away from the miserablism and went for more just general chill indie route.
For me,
I guess sort of like a wackier Grizzly Bear.
I guess that's probably why I didn't get into it, because alternative albums are my thing. For me, in Rainbows, it was just like, not Kid A, right? It was just like, free download, man. Free download. Of course I'm gonna listen and like it because of that. And I think that I didn't know they were the first guys.
It's sort of like foresaw, predicted like what would later come with streaming, is in paying what you want per album.
Good perception. Like for them to call that, their managers were probably losing their goddamn titties, dude. It was crazy.
Yeah. And I think it was like just before Kid in Rainbows that they actually left their original record label, or it was just after Kid A it was either just before In Rainbows or just after In Rainbows.
I think it was before. I'm reading it right now, and it was before. Hail to the Thief was the final.
Yeah, and they then joined XL Records, which is brilliant, because like they're a label that like can help an artist become absolutely massive, but they're also one that lets artists be as weird as they want. Like on XL Records, they have both Adele and King Krul signed to it, so which is excellent. And easily the coolest record label out there.
Yeah, I mean, when you have good management, I guess it's not so bad to be industries, but it almost never happens that way.
Yeah, I think whoever gets to that label, just gets signed to that label, is really lucky.
100%. Well, honestly, man, I think that's all the time we'll have for today, but it was a really good episode. I think we covered Radiohead for this time. We're probably going to do the rest of Mucore, maybe check out what people want us to do next time, which would be, I think, a good idea. Some kind of poll.
I mean, working out like what topics will draw people in, and which will also be like interesting to talk about for us if it's like outside our obvious knowledge zone.
Yeah, exactly. But thank you, Matt, so much for showing up,
and thank you for helping organize all this.
No worries, man. And thank you for listening, one guy that accidentally left us on. All right.